Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to help you gain knowledge quickly but thoroughly, providing that shortcut to being truly well-informed.
And today, we're tackling a really big one.
We are. We're undertaking a deep exploration of a subject everyone thinks they understand, but maybe few ever truly master: love. We're diving into Erich Fromm's seminal 1956 work, The Art of Loving.
A classic and still so relevant.
Absolutely. Now, if you're like most people in modern society, you probably think of love as something that just happens to you.
Right, like catching a cold or winning the lottery.
Exactly. It's seen as this pleasant, passive sensation, a matter of luck maybe, or cosmic chance.
Yeah, you just stumble into it.
But Fromm challenges this fundamental assumption right away. The question we really need to wrestle with is this: is love something you simply fall into?
Or is it an intricate, demanding skill?
Yes, a skill that requires the same rigorous knowledge and effort as, say, learning music or engineering or medicine.
That's the absolute core premise that sets this work apart, isn't it? Fromm spots this profound paradox in contemporary Western culture.
Which is?
We're starved for love. I mean, look around. We consume endless media about it. Films, songs, books.
It's everywhere.
But when it comes to the actual act of loving, we assume no learning is needed. It's strange.
We accept that becoming a master carpenter takes years of practice, right?
Yeah, years. Yet we treat love like, well, it should just come naturally. No effort required.
And if that love fails, if a relationship falls apart.
Well, then we usually conclude one of two things.
Okay.
Either, oh, well, we were just unlucky.
Bad timing, wrong place.
Or we think, I just chose the wrong partner, a wrong object to love.
Right. It's about finding the right one.
But we rarely, if ever, stop to consider that the problem might be our own underdeveloped faculty for loving, our own lack of skill.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
It is. And this isn't just, relationship advice column stuff for Fromm. He frames this as a civilization-level failure.
Wow. Oh,
It's really crucial to understand the high stakes, he said. The Art of Loving was actually written as part of this influential World Perspectives series.
I didn't know that. What was the series about?
Well, it aimed to address the spiritual, moral, and political world crisis of the mid-20th century. A pretty ambitious goal.
Definitely.
The authors saw this deep crisis in consciousness. Humanity's vast scientific knowledge had paradoxically led to profound individual alienation.
So this book, The Art of Loving, it isn't just self-help. It's more like a philosophical attempt to fix modern existential dread, using love as the lens.
You've got it. Absolutely. The goal was to restore order, dignity, and true self-realization to the individual. From the modern spiritual crisis is characterized by this diminishment of consciousness, the loss of self, the failure to achieve genuine connection.
And the crisis of love is tied up in all that.
Inseparable from it. It's part of the crisis of the modern soul.
He really drives home how serious he is about the intellectual side of love right at the start, doesn't he? With that quote from Paracelsus.
Oh yeah, that quote is powerful. He who knows nothing loves nothing.
The more knowledge is inherent in a thing, the greater the love.
Wow. That quote is basically the thesis statement for the entire book. It's saying love isn't just some vague feeling.
It's tied to knowledge.
Inextricably bound to deep knowledge and practice. If you can't truly know and understand the essence of a person or life or the world,
then you can't truly love it.
Exactly. Love becomes this active, informed, rigorous pursuit. As he says later, anyone expecting grapes to ripen as fast as strawberries just doesn't understand cultivation.
Right. Love takes time, patience, knowledge, effort. Okay, let's unpack this theoretical foundation in part I then. From setting up a psychoanalytical, philosophical grounding here. And he starts not with romance, interestingly, but with a fundamental theory of human existence.
Correct. For Fromm, you can't understand love without first understanding what it means to be human. And humanity, he says, has this unique dilemma. Unlike the animal kingdom, where adaptation is instinctual, it's definite. Man has transcended nature.
We think, we feel, we're self-aware.
Yes, but the flip side is we can't return to that pre-human harmony. That Garden of Eden, if you like. We've been metaphorically thrown out of paradise.
Wait, isn't that transcendence reason? Self-awareness, freedom, isn't that all good? Where does the problem come in?
The problem arises precisely from the awareness that comes with those gifts. We become aware of ourselves as separate entities.
Alone?
Yes, aware of our aloneness, our helplessness against nature and society, and maybe most profoundly, aware of the certainty of our own death.
Right.
This awareness of separation, Fromm argues, is the engine driving all intense human anxiety. It's the source of it all.
So that feeling of dread, that background anxiety so many feel.
It's existential, rooted in being fundamentally cut off. He even says if we couldn't find ways to liberate ourselves from this prison of isolation, we'd go hopelessly insane.
That really reframes modern anxiety, doesn't it? It's not just stress from work.
It's deeper. It's this profound dread of separateness.
Okay, so if that's the core problem,
Then the single deepest, most universal human need is to overcome this separateness, to achieve union at oneness, fusion.
that desire for connection, for fusion.
It's the most fundamental passion of humanity driving almost everything we do.
And he uses the Adam and Eve story to illustrate this,
Oh,
but not in the usual original sin way.
no, it's a brilliant reinterpretation. For him, eating from the tree of knowledge isn't about sinning against God. It's about achieving awareness of separation.
Suddenly they realize they're naked and they feel shame.
Exactly. Shame is the realization of separation. So the story isn't about sin and punishment. It's about the emergence of true human existence.
Which
And
then necessitates action.
action to liberate oneself from that newly recognized aloneness. Human history, for Fromm, begins right there, with recognizing separateness and the deep need to find reunion.
Okay, so if the universal problem is separateness, we need to look at how people try to solve it. Fromm outlines several, let's say, immature or failed solutions. Pseudo-love, he calls them.
Attempts that don't quite get there.
Let's start with the most intense one, the orgiastic union. What's that about?
This is the attempt to find temporary fusion through really intense states, physical or mental. Think historical tribal rituals, auto-induced trances, wild communal celebrations.
Okay. And in modern times,
Well, it translates often into the use of drugs, alcohol, or even certain kinds of intense sexual experiences. The goal is an explosion of feeling.
to make the outside world disappear.
And with it, that dreadful feeling of separateness just for a little while. To achieve total oblivion, a state where the self dissolves temporarily,
It sounds powerful.
it is intense and it can feel like a complete solution in the moment. But the key word is transitory.
It doesn't last.
No. The moment the ritual ends or the drug wears off, you crash back down into the reality of your aloneness. Often feeling even worse, maybe with guilt or remorse, because these modern attempts usually lack that social integration the old rituals had.
So he sees things like alcoholism and drug addiction today as
As desperate, often solitary attempts to find this temporary escape from separateness, they don't truly solve the problem.
I can see how that maps onto the modern chase for extreme experiences.
Right.
But the second solution, union by conformity, feels, well, quieter, but maybe more pervasive.
It absolutely is. He calls it the predominant solution in contemporary Western society. It's the quiet loss of self into the herd.
How does that work?
Here, the individual self just kind of disappears into the collective group. You stop being you and become one of us.
And the appeal is,
You're relieved of the burden of making decisions, of thinking for yourself. You find a strange kind of comfort in the shared experience of aloneness. You're alone, sure, but so is everyone else, and you're all doing the same thing, wearing the same clothes, thinking the same thoughts.
but hang on, people today, especially online, seem obsessed with showing how unique they are, their personal brand, their authenticity. How does Fromm explain that?
That's the illusion he wants to expose. People genuinely believe they're following their own ideas, their own tastes. In reality, Fromm argues their thoughts, feelings, goals are often mass-produced. They're functionally identical to the majority's.
Driven by fear.
The unbearable fear of being different, of standing out from the standardized crowd. It's safer to conform.
This leads to his critique of modern equality, doesn't it? He says we've twisted the original meaning.
Completely deformed it. In the Enlightenment tradition, Kant and others, equality meant the full realization of unique individuality, each person treated as an end in themselves.
Developing their full potential.
Exactly. But Fromm says in contemporary capitalist society, equality has been warped into sameness.
He calls it the equality of automatons. That's harsh.
It is, but he sees it as a standardized existence. People working similar jobs, consuming the same media, holding the same low-friction opinions.
Why? What's the purpose of this sameness?
Functionality. It makes people predictable, interchangeable commodities in the market. It helps the smooth operation of mass society.
But this kind of union, it's not intense like the orgiastic state.
No, it's calm, it's dictated by routine, But ultimately, it's often insufficient. It doesn't truly satisfy that deep need for union.
And that's why we see.
The underlying dissatisfaction. Those low-level neuroses may be compulsive behaviors, drinking,
Right.
sometimes even suicide. Symptoms, Fromm says, of the failure of herd conformity to genuinely bridge the gap of separation.
Okay, moving from the group to the individual pair, the third failed solution is the symbiotic union. Sounds biological?
It is a psychological echo of that biological relationship between mother and fetus. You have two people, but one is entirely dependent on the other, lacking their own self-sufficiency.
They can't stand on their own 2 feet.
Exactly. And this pattern shows up in two main forms, but they share this common feature: fusion without integrity.
Okay, what's the first form? The passive one.
That's masochism. This is where someone submits to another person, or maybe a power, an institution, an idol. They renounce their own integrity, become just a part of the dominant person or thing, and in doing so, they escape the terrifying risk and responsibility of being independent.
They're never alone, but the cost is.
The loss of self. Self-destruction, really.
And the active form, sadism.
That's the flip side, domination. The sadistic person escapes their own aloneness by incorporating and controlling another person, making them an appendage, essentially.
Controlling them, exploiting them.
Manipulating them to maintain this false sense of superiority and power. But it's crucial to see, even though they look opposite, the dominant sadist, the submissive masochist.
They're both rooted in the same problem.
Exactly. Both rooted in a fundamental failure to stand on their own feet. They need each other. Their existence is dependent, shared, intertwined in this unhealthy way.
So the common thread through all these attempts, the trance, the conformity, the symbiosis, is losing the self.
Precisely. They achieve some kind of union, but always at the cost of the individual self. It gets destroyed or dissolved.
Which is why they are failed attempts.
Yes. And that failure brings us right to Fromm's central definition of the real solution: mature love.
Which achieves.
Union under the condition of preserving one's integrity, one's individuality. That's the only way for Fromm to truly solve the problem of human existence.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly for part 2. We're shifting from the theory, the why, to the practice, the how. If mature love needs us to keep our integrity, then it must be something we actively do, right? Not just something we feel.
Exactly. Fromm defines mature love as an active power in man. He uses the phrase standing in, not falling for.
Standing in, not falling for. I like
That
that.
immediately signals that this isn't passive. And this, I think, is the most challenging part for modern readers, because it requires the development of your total personality. You need a productive orientation towards the world. Basically, if you want to master the art of loving.
You first have to master the art of productive living.
Pretty much, yeah. They go hand in hand.
Okay, but let's clarify activity. Because today, active usually means busy. Working crazy hours, endless emails, social events, just constant doing. Fromm suggests a lot of that isn't truly active.
He does make that distinction. He separates, let's call it, compulsive activity from true activity.
Okay.
So if someone's incredibly busy in business, studies, sports, whatever, but they're driven by deep insecurity or ambition or greed.
Then it's not coming from a place of freedom.
Right. That engagement is actually a form of passivity. The person is a slave to some external passion, some engine driving them. They aren't acting freely.
So true active love has to come from inner freedom.
Yes. True activity is based on freedom. It never results from compulsion. He even uses things like concentrated meditation or contemplation, just sitting still quietly, as an example of the highest form of true activity.
Really? Sitting still is active.
The activity of the soul, he'd say. Possible only when you achieve inner freedom and independence. And true active love flows from that exact same place of inner strength and freedom.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the primary component of this active love is giving. But here again, we need to redefine it, don't we? Because usually giving means sacrifice, giving up something.
That is the common misunderstanding, yes. Especially for what Fromm calls the unproductive character. But for the truly productive, loving character, giving isn't about losing something.
It's about gaining.
It's the highest expression of potency. In the very act of giving, the person experiences this heightened sense of vitality, strength, richness, joy.
So giving actually makes you feel richer, more alive, which means giving is inherently more joyous than receiving.
For the productive person, yes, it's the expression of their aliveness, their power. He even applies this to material things.
How so?
He says being truly rich isn't about having a lot, it's about giving a lot. Think about the hoarder, anxiously clinging to possessions, terrified of loss.
They seem poor in spirit, even if they have money.
Psychologically, they are the impoverished person, Fromm argues. They're blocked, unproductive. The person who gives freely is the one confirming their own potency, their own richness.
And what is it that a loving person primarily gives? It's not just stuff, right?
No, not mainly material things. The most important giving is the gift of self.
What does that mean, giving yourself?
It means giving of your life, your joy, your interests, your understanding, your humor, your knowledge, your sadness, your time, everything that's alive in you.
And this giving, it benefits both people.
Absolutely. It enriches the other person, obviously. But crucially, it also enhances the giver's own sense of aliveness. It has to be interactive, though. Giving only brings joy if it actually brings something to life in the other person, too. It creates this shared vitality.
Okay, so giving is the foundation. From Rhee then builds the structure of active love on 4 basic elements. They all depend on each other. You call it CRRK.
Yeah, it's a helpful mnemonic. Care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. Let's start with the first one. Care.
Care. Seems simple enough.
On the surface, yes. But from means active, engaged concern for the life and growth of the person or thing you love.
Active concern.
If you say you love something, a person, a plant, a pet, but you show no active concern for its well-being, its flourishing.
Then the love isn't real, it's just talk.
Exactly. The concern has to show up in concrete actions, like a mother actively caring for her baby or a gardener tending their plants. You have to put in the work.
And he uses the story of Jonah from the Bible to illustrate this link between love and labor.
He does. It's a fascinating interpretation. Jonah is depicted as the ultimate anti-lover. God asks him to warn the people of Nineveh.
But Jonah doesn't want to. He wants them punished.
He's completely wrapped up in the concept of divine justice, of strict law and order. He lacks mercy, lacks care. Then God teaches him this lesson with the gourd plant.
The plant that grew up quickly to give him shade and then died just as quickly.
Right. And Jonah is upset about the plant dying, not because he worked for it, but just because it gave him comfort.
And God's point is,
God says essentially, you feel sorry for this plant you didn't even work for, yet you have no pity for Nineveh, a city full of people I labored to create.
so the essence of love is revealed.
One loves that for which one labors, and one labors for that which one loves. Care is labor. It's the effort you put in to make something grow. Without that work, there's no real love.
Okay, care is active work. Next is responsibility. This sounds a bit like duty or obligation.
It can sound like that, but Fromm defines it differently. It's not a formal duty imposed from outside. It's entirely voluntary.
Voluntary how?
Responsibility comes from being responsible, literally, able to respond. It's a voluntary response to the needs of another person.
Like when Cain asks, am I my brother's keeper?
The loving person answers, implicitly, yes, I am able and willing to respond to your needs, even if society doesn't force me to. And in mature love, this responsibility relates mainly to the psychic needs of the other.
Their need for understanding, support for their growth.
Exactly, responding to those deeper needs.
Got it. The third element, respect, seems crucial. Because responsibility without respect could easily turn into trying to control someone.
That is the absolute pivot point. Respect is vital. The word comes from the Latin respicere, which literally means to look at.
To look at.
To respect someone means to see them as they truly are, to be acutely aware of their unique individuality.
Not just seeing what you want to see.
Precisely. And respect means being concerned that the other person should grow and unfold in their own way, according to their own internal laws, not exploiting them for my purposes or trying to mold them into what I want them to be.
So I can't truly respect someone if I need them to be a certain way for me.
No. Respect requires your own independence and freedom first. If I'm dominating someone or using them,
then you're not respecting them. You're just manipulating an object.
Exactly. And Fromm states it very clearly. Love is the child of freedom, never that of domination. The respect you can offer someone else is directly linked to the respect you have for yourself and your own autonomy.
Which brings us full circle to the fourth element, the one that started it all. Knowledge. You need deep knowledge for the other 3 to work.
Absolutely fundamental. You can't truly care responsibly or respect effectively if all you have is surface knowledge.
What's the difference?
Surface knowledge is just seeing the outside. Knowing someone is angry, for instance. Deeper knowledge, the kind needed for love, penetrates the core. It understands why they're angry.
Seeing the anger maybe as a sign of deeper suffering or loneliness or fear?
Exactly. Transcending the illusion of the surface presentation, the masks people wear, and seeing the reality underneath. Understanding their anxieties, their worries, that's the knowledge love requires.
He talks about two ways to get this deep knowledge, to penetrate the secret of man. One sounds pretty terrifying.
It is the destructive path. This comes from a desperate craving to know the other person completely by gaining total mastery over them, by tearing them apart psychologically or even physically, torturing, humiliating, destroying them. He quotes the writer Isaac Babel, who said about shooting an enemy, "With shooting, you'll never get at the soul."
So cruelty is a twisted attempt to know.
A tragic, failed attempt to know the human secret through complete control. But it never works. It destroys the very thing it seeks to know.
Okay, so what's the loving path to knowledge?
Love is the other path. It's also an active penetration of the other person, a desire to know them deeply. But the desire to know is ultimately stilled by the act of union, and the act of loving, of giving, of connecting from your core to theirs.
You find yourself, you find them, you find the connection.
Yes. Full knowledge, the deepest understanding, isn't found in just thinking about the person. It lies only in the act of love itself. It's a daring plunge into the experience of union that actually goes beyond the limits of thought.
Thought might be necessary, but the experience is the real goal. Okay, so if love is this active, productive way of being the CRRK framework based on giving, who's it directed towards? Fromm makes a really interesting point here. Love isn't primarily about a relationship with one specific person.
That's another of his quite radical assertions, isn't it? He argues that if you truly possess the capacity for active love, it becomes an attitude, an orientation of your whole character.
So it extends beyond just one person.
It extends to all persons, to the world, to life itself. The capacity to love one specific person deeply is really just the developed manifestation of your general capacity to love the whole.
Wow. So if a couple says, oh, we love each other so much, but they seem completely indifferent or even hostile to everyone else.
Fromm would probably classify that as something else, maybe enlarged egotism.
Egoism ado, like just the two of them against the world.
Exactly. An alliance of two people finding refuge from their shared loneliness, but not necessarily possessing the actual productive capacity for love itself. Because real love, once developed, is a faculty that has to embrace all human beings in principle.
Okay, that's a high bar. How do we even get there? How does this capacity develop? He talks about the parent-child relationship as a starting point.
Yes, we all begin, he says, in a state of infant narcissism.
Yeah.
The baby is born, experiences sensations, but can't really differentiate itself from the world yet, especially not from the mother. It's a state of perceived oneness, euphoria.
And love at this stage is totally passive.
Completely. It's I am loved because I am me. The outside world, the mother, is just there to satisfy needs or frustrate them. There's no concept of giving love back.
Okay, then we move into the first type of external love we experience, motherly love, which he describes as purely unconditional.
Yes, motherly love is the unconditional affirmation of the child's life and needs. It basically says, I love you because you are mine, because you exist.
Regardless of merit.
Regardless of merit, expectations, behavior, it's the bliss of total acceptance, protection, existence affirmed. Milk and honey, as he puts it.
Sounds wonderful. Is there a downside?
There's a fundamental danger or challenge. Because it's unconditional, the child can't do anything to acquire it, produce it, or control it. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, you can't earn it. This can lead to a profound sense of helplessness later on if it's the only model of love internalized.
Right. So as the child matures, they need to move beyond that total dependency and encounter the other pole, fatherly love.
Exactly. Fatherly love represents the other side of existence. Law, order, discipline, guidance. Teaching the child how to navigate and cope with the challenges of the world they're growing into.
So unlike motherly love, fatherly love is
Inherently conditional. It says, I love you because you fulfill my expectations, because you do your duty, because you strive, because you're making progress.
it has to be deserved.
Yes, which means the child can work for it, acquire it, influence it. This helps them learn self-reliance, responsibility.
But the potential downside there is the fear, right? If I mess up, if I don't meet the conditions.
Then the love might be withdrawn. That's the anxiety inherent in conditional love.
So neither unconditional nor conditional love is the complete picture for maturity.
No. The truly mature person, according to Fromm, achieves mental health by eventually internalizing and synthesizing both principles. They move beyond needing the external mother or father figure.
What does that internal synthesis look like? How does it feel?
You develop what he calls an internal motherly conscience. This is the capacity for unconditional self-acceptance, self-love. It says to yourself, essentially, there's no mistake you can make that deprives you of your fundamental worth or my wish for your happiness.
That sounds like deep self-compassion.
It is. And alongside it, you develop a fatherly conscience. This is your internalized voice of reason, judgment, responsibility. It says, you did wrong here, you need to accept the consequences, learn from this, and change your ways.
So mental health is the balance, the dialogue between these two.
Yes. The constant interplay between the warmth of unconditional self-acceptance and the rational rigor of self-improvement and accountability.
And if this synthesis fails,
Way.
if someone gets stuck,
Neurosis is inevitable, Fromm suggests. The person who remains predominantly mother-centered might stay kind of helpless, always seeking that unconditional affirmation from others, never fully independent.
always needing rescuing?
Perhaps. And the person who remains excessively father-centered might become rigid, strictly duty-bound, overly rational, maybe lacking warmth and terrified of failure, always trying to earn love and acceptance, sacrificing joy for rules.
The goal then is to move beyond both.
To move from I'm loved because I am and I am loved because I deserve it to a mature state of I love myself because I am an active, productive, striving human being capable of both self-acceptance and self-direction.
This leads directly into a really crucial clarification. Fromm makes one that pushes back against a lot of Western thought. The difference between self-love and selfishness.
Yes, this is huge. Traditionally, especially in certain religious traditions and even in Freud's interpretation of narcissism, self-love is seen as a vice. It's basically equated with selfishness.
They're seen as mutually exclusive. If you love yourself, you can't love others and vice versa.
Fromm argues this view is fundamentally flawed and has caused a lot of confusion. He radically asserts that selfishness and true self-love are opposites.
Opposites. Okay, let's define the selfish person according to Fromm then.
The selfish person isn't someone who loves themselves too much. They are interested only in themselves, what they can get. They want everything for themselves. They're fundamentally incapable of giving pleasure or real interest.
They lack respect for others' needs.
Completely. And critically, Fromm says the selfish person is deeply unhappy. They're constantly anxious, fundamentally unsatisfied, internally empty. Why?
Because
They lack productivity. They've failed to develop their own capacity for active love, for growth, for connection. Their selfishness is just this desperate, greedy attempt to compensate for their failure to care for their real self, their potential.
So paradoxically, the selfish person doesn't love themselves at all.
In a deep, productive sense, no. Fromm says they actually hate themselves, unconsciously, because of their lack of productivity and inner emptiness.
Wow, that completely flips the script. So true self-love isn't a sin.
It's a virtue. It's the prerequisite for loving anyone else.
How so?
Remember, love is an indivisible attitude, an orientation towards life. So the affirmation of your own life, happiness, growth, freedom, that's rooted in your general capacity to love. If you can love others productively.
You must also love yourself productively.
And conversely, if you can only love yourself in that selfish, non-productive way, you can't truly love others at all. It's one and the same attitude, applied universally to self and others. He quotes Meister Eckhart on this.
What did Eckhart say?
If you love yourself, you love everybody else as you do yourself. It's about extending that same fundamental affirmation outwards.
Okay, that clarifies the self-love point massively.
Right.
Fromm then takes this developmental model from dependency to mature synthesis and applies it to the ultimate object of love, the love of God.
Yes, he sees the evolution of religious concepts as mirroring this parent-child psychological development.
How does that work?
Well, early forms often featured mother-goddess figures, all-encompassing, protective, providing unconditional nourishment like motherly love.
Okay.
Then you see the rise of the patriarchal god figures, powerful father figures who judge, reward, punish. This mirrors the phase of conditional fatherly love where obedience and merit are key.
And the final, most mature stage.
That's the monotheistic ideal, when properly understood. Here, God ceases to be thought of as an actual person, or even just a punishing, rewarding father.
What does God become then?
God becomes the symbol of the underlying unity behind all the diverse phenomena of the world. The ultimate principle of reality encompassing justice, truth, love.
And the consequence of this mature view is?
The ultimate consequence, paradoxically, is the negation of all knowledge about God. You cannot really say anything definitive about God.
Why not?
because if God represents the ultimate, unified, total reality, then any attempt to define God, to name God, to attribute specific qualities to God necessarily limits that infinite reality. It makes God less than the all.
You can't put the infinite into finite words or concepts.
Exactly. This is where Fromm points out a major difference between dominant Western logic and much of Eastern thought.
Aristotelian versus paradoxical logic.
Precisely. Western logic, based on Aristotle, relies heavily on the law of non-contradiction. A is A cannot be non-A. We try to know God through clear, distinct theological statements, through thought.
We want definite answers.
Yes. But paradoxical logic, which is more prevalent in Chinese thought like Taoism and Indian traditions like Buddhism and Hinduism, accepts contradiction as fundamental to reality.
A and non-A can coexist.
Because the ultimate reality is seen as transcending our neat logical categories, it holds opposites together. Think yin and yang.
Okay, so if thought, especially Aristotelian thought, cannot grasp this ultimate paradoxical reality,
then the primary way to approach it, to connect with it, cannot be through thinking about it.
so how do you approach it?
That's the core conclusion. Fromm draws from paradoxical logic applied to religion. The love of God isn't primarily about knowing God theologically or even thinking about God. It's about the act of experiencing oneness with that ultimate reality, with God.
Experience over intellect.
Yes. This shifts the central religious task entirely. It's less about thinking right, doctrine theology, and more about acting right, living right.
Like Halakha in Judaism, the path of right conduct. Or the Tao, the way.
Exactly those kinds of concepts. Achieving union not through dogma, but through the practice of life, through concentrated meditation, ethical action, and active love itself, transcending the limits of the mind through experience.
Wow. Okay. We've scaled the heights of what mature love could be for self, others, even the divine. But Fromm brings us crashing back down to earth in this final part, doesn't he? With a pretty harsh assessment of our current society.
He does. His conclusion is stark. The social structure of contemporary Western civilization, particularly industrial capitalism as he saw it in the mid-20th century, is actively hostile to the development of mature love.
Hostile. That's strong.
He argues that genuine brotherly love, motherly love, erotic love, the mature forms we've discussed, are actually extremely rare.
Why? What is it about the system?
Because the system, he says, isn't conducive to developing the very things love requires. Real freedom, independence, productivity, and the human sense.
And the engine driving this disintegration, he claims, is the market mentality.
Yes. The logic of capitalism, as he analyzes it, regulates human relations primarily through the mechanism of the market.
How does that affect people?
It transforms everything, human energy, skills, time, even human beings themselves, into commodities, things to be bought and sold on a labor market or the personality market.
So a person's value isn't intrinsic.
Increasingly, it's based on their exchange value. How much are they worth to the market? How well do they sell? Not on their inherent qualities as a unique human being.
This leads to that phrase he uses, the alienated automaton.
He describes modern man and woman implicitly as experiencing their own life, their own powers, as an investment, something that must yield the maximum possible profit on this personality market.
So we have to package ourselves, create a brand.
Exactly. We become a personality package, projecting the right image, having the right opinions, the right skills, the right appearance, all designed to fetch a fair price, to make a good bargain in social and economic life.
And this pressure leads to conformity.
Extreme conformity. Because if you're too unique, too different, you risk failing to sell yourself. You risk your entire investment, your security. This constant pressure creates deep alienation from yourself, from others, from your work.
And this alienated transactional way of being inevitably leaks into our closest relationships, doesn't it? Creating what he calls the teamwork marriage.
Yes, that's his term for the ideal modern relationship, he observed. It's not about deep, passionate, productive love rooted in self-actualization.
What is it about then?
It's about a smoothly functioning, well-oiled, low-friction alliance between two of these alienated automatons. They treat each other with politeness, they share chores and expenses efficiently, they might raise children competently, but fundamentally, Fromm argues, they remain strangers to each other their entire lives.
It sounds less like love and more like a well-managed small business or a mutual defense pact.
That's exactly it. He explicitly calls it an egoism à deux, an alliance of two people against a hostile, alienated world. The marriage becomes a refuge from the unbearable feeling of total aloneness outside.
And they mistake that shared refuge, that mutual convenience, for real intimacy.
They mistake it for love. It provides some relief from separateness, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem because there's no true union of souls.
This focus on function and surface also led to that big post-World War I obsession with sexual technique, didn't it?
It did. The thinking became very mechanistic. If there's unhappiness in a relationship, the problem must be faulty technique.
Fix the sex, fix the marriage.
Right. Loads of self-help guides, psychological advice focused on achieving correct sexual adjustment, adequate sexual satisfaction. The assumption was that love and happiness would just automatically follow if the physical side was working well.
A technical fix for a human problem.
A classic example, yes. But Fromm completely reverses the logic.
Yeah.
He argues passionately that love is not the result of adequate sexual satisfaction. Love is the foundation for truly meaningful sexual satisfaction.
So good sex doesn't create love.
Love creates the possibility for truly fulfilling, non-alienated sex. Sexual attraction and technique, when they're divorced from genuine love, care, respect, knowledge, they only create a temporary, fleeting illusion of union.
And afterward.
When the intense physical moment passes, the partners often feel even more alienated, more ashamed, more estranged than before, because the physical act failed to bridge the real gap between their whole selves.
Okay, besides the teamwork marriage and the focus on technique, what other forms of pseudo-love does emerging from this alienated, market-driven society?
Well, there's idolatrous love. This is rooted in the individual's own lack of identity, their own feeling of emptiness.
So what do?
They find someone else and basically turn them into an idol. They project all their own potential powers, strength, goodness, perfection onto this loved person. The partner becomes the summum bonum, the source of all light and value.
By doing that, they essentially give away their own power.
They become totally dependent on the idol, alienated from their own strength, and of course, they set the relationship up for inevitable disaster.
Because nobody can live up to being a god.
Exactly. No human can bear that weight. So disappointment is absolutely guaranteed, which leads to these dramatic falls from grace, intense disillusionment, and often just cycling through relationships looking for the next perfect idol.
That sounds exhausting. Then there's the opposite almost. Sure. Experiencing love passively, through media. Sentimental love.
Yes, this is the modern pathology of emotional consumption as he saw it. People binge-watch romantic comedies, listen endlessly to love songs, read romance novels.
They experience love vicariously.
In fantasy, yes. They consume these love stories like, I don't know, emotional candy. They identify with the characters on screen or in the song.
And this satisfies the hunger just enough.
Just enough to allow them to remain safely unengaged in their own real-life relationships. They remain emotionally frozen, spectators rather than participants. They become experts in the idea or the feeling of love, but remain completely incompetent in the actual art of loving.
And one more failure, he points out. The inability to handle conflict. The illusion that love means constant harmony.
Yes, this is a very common error, he notes. Many people have this deep-seated belief that love must mean the total absence of conflict, pain, or sadness.
So they avoid disagreements.
They avoid deep disagreements at all costs because conflict feels inherently destructive to the relationship. And for Mockery agrees, superficial struggles, constant bickering about trivial things, nagging.
Yeah, it's destructive.
It's usually just venting underlying resentment without getting to the real issues. But real conflicts are different.
What defines a real conflict?
Conflicts that actually touch the deep existential level of inner reality. When two people dare to communicate honestly from the center of their existence about things that truly matter.
That's not destructive.
It's not. In fact, it's the opposite. Those kinds of conflicts lead to clarification, to catharsis. Sometimes painful, yes, but ultimately to increased understanding and strength in the relationship. You have to be willing to face the truth together.
So love isn't about avoiding conflict, but engaging with it constructively.
Exactly. Love isn't a resting place, a safe harbor from all storms. He says it's a constant challenge. It is not a resting place, but a moving, growing, working together.
And the proof of love isn't smooth sailing.
The fruit by which love is recognized, he says, isn't the absence of pain, but the depth, the aliveness, and the increased strength and vitality it fosters in the people involved. #outro.
Wow, what a profound and frankly challenging journey into the real requirements of love. We've definitely moved way beyond just thinking of love as a passive feeling.
It's a complete reframing, isn't it? Defining it as a productive, demanding, lifelong skill.
Absolutely. So let's try to distill the key takeaways. The learner's cheat sheet, if you will, from Fromm's The Art of Loving. Where do we start?
First, and most fundamentally, love is an art. Like any art, it demands mastery through dedicated learning, both theory, understanding the principles.
And practice.
Yeah.
Consistent, disciplined effort. It won't just happen to you.
Second, love is an active power. It's about standing in, not falling for. Rooted in the act of giving, which isn't sacrifice, but the highest expression of human potency and vitality.
And this active power is built on those four interconnected elements: care, active concern and labor; responsibility, voluntary response to needs; respect, seeing and fostering unique individuality; and knowledge, penetrating understanding, CRK.
Third, that crucial redefinition of self. Selfishness and true self-love are opposites. You actually need to affirm and care for your own life, growth, and happiness productively to be capable of truly loving others. It's not either.
Fourth, love isn't just about one person. It's an orientation of character, an attitude directed towards the entire world, towards all of life. Loving one person deeply is the realization of a general capacity to love.
Fifth, psychological maturity means achieving an internal synthesis of the two parental principles: unconditional motherly love, self-acceptance, compassion, and conditional fatherly love, reason, judgment, responsibility. Moving beyond needing external validation.
And finally, the sobering point. Our contemporary Western society, with its market mentality and focus on exchange value, tends to produce alienated, automated personalities.
Right. And these personalities often seek pseudo-love conformity, transactional teamwork marriages, idolatry, sentimental escapism as ways to manage the unbearable anxiety of separateness rather than truly resolving it through productive, active union.
Which really leaves us with a challenging final thought, doesn't it?
It does. Something for you, the listener, to really mull over.
If achieving mature love, as Fromm defines it, requires genuine independence, self-mastery, inner freedom, and a productive orientation,
And if our modern society is structured in ways that often push us towards being alienated, conforming, commodity-focused automatons,
then maybe the biggest challenge to developing the capacity for love isn't actually finding the right partner.
perhaps the real challenge, the truly revolutionary task, is achieving the profound transformation of our own character and maybe even our society that would allow us to become the kind of people capable of loving, people who are genuinely productive, independent, and free.
A powerful question to end on. We hope this deep dive into Erich Fromm has given you the knowledge, maybe the inspiration, to start viewing love not just as a mystery, but as an art you can begin to practice today.